again everyone, Tracey here from MiniScenes. Right, as I often say, I do take requests, and most recently the requests and the feedback on my poll have been resin techniques and particularly jewellery related. So I thought I would do a whole little series on some really simple jewellery making. The specific request I've had is for earrings, so here we go. First of all, I'm going to introduce you to some of the moulds and other bits and pieces that we'll be playing with. First of all, we have an assortment of moulds for pendants, even really huge ones. So we've got all sorts on there. I'm assuming these are the sort of moulds we often have kicking around. This one is fairly new and it's a current favourite of mine, which is why it's already in a bit of a mess. This one is a nice easy one for beginners as well. It's already got the holes, as you can see, as quite a few of these moulds have. That will create the mould in the item for you. There's one there for just like little cabochons. And this one, I thought we'd include this. This is for making round beads. The European charm beads, you know, like the fancy brands, Pandora and the like, but how to make your own handmade ones. So the other bits and pieces we'll be needing, and I'll introduce you to these as we go through this complete jewellery making, well, you could call it a course if you like, are things like jump rings, how to handle those properly, eye pins. This is an eye pin, see, a pin with an eye at the end. Head pins, these are head pins, so they are a pin with a head. We will also be using pinch bails. They're really easy to use, so we shall have some pinch bails on the go. And for the sake of variety, we will be using, possibly on some of these, some little screw hooks with round eyes on them as well. Then of course you also need the things to fix them to your ears if you're going to be making earrings with them, so we have some ear hooks. We have some little silver beads that we can use as spacer beads if we need them. I've got those in various sizes. I've also got all of these in silver, gold, rose gold, copper, all sorts. The other thing is a bezel. I've got these again in all sorts of shapes, sizes, colours. This is a nice big one that I thought you'd be able to see what I was doing well with, so we shall use that. Ooh, my go-to little heart mould as well. And I thought we'd also have a look at open back bezels. Now that is a really funky fish-shaped one that I've been meaning to have a play with, but I'll also dig out some just plain open back bezels as well. So that is my plan, and I'm going to do this series of videos in stages. So the first thing we'll be looking at today will be making the actual items that we're going to put onto the resin. And for that, or rather into the resin, make resin off, I know what I mean. Put this here. So in part one then, here we go. We'll be making the little things that we want to make into jewellery. Now this mould needs a good clean up first, I think. So while we talk, I will do that. So for those of you who haven't used resin before, this is a good place to start because I will be using ultraviolet curing resin. And with that, I don't tend to bother so much with PPE and gloves and so on. I probably should recommend that you do though. Certainly with epoxy resin, I'll have gloves, I'll have a respirator mask and all sorts. Resin's some pretty nasty stuff. I don't think UV resin is as bad. It's also very easy to work with, which is why a lot of beginners do start with it. So first of all, let's do some little flower ones. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, shall we have a pendant and then we'll have some earrings, shall we? Let's do a matching set. So what I'm doing first of all is just putting in a thin layer of my ultraviolet resin. Let me bring you in a bit closer here. Let's make sure we've got you nicely in shot. There we go. So I will be bringing in some ultraviolet curing resin. And the reason for putting this in first is to get a bit of a coat around the inside of the mould. And I'm just using the end of the nozzle at the moment, but I'm going to switch now to a stick. This stick's handy. It's a cocktail stirrer, which I think I've got these. I've had them for a long time. I had a big job lot of them from somewhere on Amazon, I think. I need to restock, so I'll put you a link if I can find them. It's got a knobby end on it, as you can see, so there's less risk of scratching the mould. Worth avoiding scratching your mould, because once you've done that, that scratch will come out on everything that you use that mould for thereafter. So we don't want that, do we? Right, so I've got what should be a reasonably smooth and complete finish on it. Not too worried about it covering totally, because the next layer of resin will smooth it. Now what I've got here is a little, let me put it off the side here, a little UV light that nail artists use, and it clips to the side of my table. I've got several different UV lights. If anyone's interested, I'll do a video on the different lights and how they perform and what I use them for. But this one I just find quite handy for when I'm making videos, because I can just switch it on and off and bend it out of the way like so. Right, that already has made that nice and sticky, so it's workable. Let's do the same with the two little ones I want to turn into earrings. There we go, let's get the ultraviolet on those. You'll notice that these moulds also are sort of translucent. They're not completely clear, but pretty darn close. And this also means that your ultraviolet light can go all the way through them. Sometimes you have to light from underneath to get the light to go all the way through for it to cure properly. I have a habit of sticking mirrors under them as well. I'm trying to avoid doing that for videos though, because I'll probably blind you. Right, well, I'm going to put in these little ones then. I'll do the similar sort of process with those, but what I'm going to put in these is some cute little flowers that I've been meaning to use for a while. These are artificial ones. I bought a little set of these, cute as anything. But I've also got some real dried but dyed flowers. I've got some really tiny ones. What you do is you trim these into bits, so I've got all sorts here. But I haven't tried these ones yet, so if I can get the top off this, yes, there you go, it comes off. If I can get the top off, I was going to say, we'll go for it. Got some little tweezers. These are as fiddly as hell, so top tip, use your tweezers. And this is part of the reason I cured the resin up first. Because it's be the same on both sides. Yeah, part of the reason I cured the resin up a bit first, they'll stick to it, and I won't end up with resin all over my tweezers. Some different colours. Let's have a white one. These are, I don't know, I think they're printed on paper actually. I've not used these ones before. You'd be surprised how much you can use in resin that you possibly didn't think you could. Some paper things, the resin will bleed into it and you lose the colour. But these appear to be, I don't know, almost coated. Some of them look like forget-me-not flowers, just in purple. Could do with a little bit of greenery in there maybe, but no, let's not worry. Oh, actually, yeah, let's have a bit off this, because this will give me the opportunity to show me how you handle these things. They are readily available from multitude of craft suppliers, and as you can see, there are lots of little tiny, tiny bits. So I'm going to trim these down. Like so. And what I'm doing is I'm going to cut these over the mould so that they all just fall in wherever they fall. I'm sure this will be easier with smaller scissors. Oh, there's bits going everywhere. By the way, who was it that said they would watch me making mud pies? Please can you remind me who you were? I couldn't find that comment. And I am so going to have a go at doing something funny like that for a laugh one day. Just to see if you really do watch. So, whoever that was, please say hello, because I can't remember who it was. But I just thought that was hilarious. Right, let's have some... No, actually, you know what? I don't want to overdo this. I was going to say let's put some pinkier ones in too. But no, I'm quite enjoying this colour mix. Now, because that is slightly tacky, as would your mould itself be, of course, then they're going to stay in place up the sides. Now, what I'm going to do is put another layer of resin in. As part of the fun, I think, of using resin. Sorry if you can hear me moving around on my chair. It is not my bottom making those noises. Well, it is. No, it is my bottom making those noises, but not for the reasons you might have been thinking. Yeah, part of the beauty of resin is that you can 3D things up. So I'm going to put another layer of resin in. Because of course this is the bottom that you're looking at the moment. So this is going to layer up. That will be the top surface, what I've just put that on. Give this a good zap. I don't need it to cure completely, I just need it to firm up. So, there we go. Yeah, so we can layer it up a bit. And what I'm going to do now is pop another flower in. And let's go for there. As you can see, that has gone, it's firm but sticky. That wasn't where I intended that one to go, but hey, it can go there. This is just too fiddly for words. Oh, started jumping around. You know what would really help, and this is to be thoroughly recommended. If you need glasses, this is when to put your glasses on. Say no more. Right, where did we get to with that green? I've got a little bit of green left. But I think what I'll do is I'll put a bit more of the resin in first. Let's bring it up another layer. Getting near to the top now, as you can see. Give him another quick whiz with the light. So what I'm aiming for really here is a bit of a kind of a 3D effect. Why restrict yourself to the one depth? Here's my thought. Need to get some more of these. They are actually, I think they're weeds in the UK, the flowers they take these off. I dried a whole load of bits off what I think is this plant to use last summer, and yeah, I'm sure it's the same thing. It just needs to be dried and dyed. If you just dry it, it goes like a golden yellow autumn colour, which might be what you want, but then it might not. There we go, so that's giving it a little bit of a 3D-ness. Is that a word? It is now! I'm inventing words. I like inventing words. Right, there we are. That'll just give it that little bit of a 3D to it. Now what I'm going to do is put some more resin on the top. Now this will be our final coat, so I'm going to take it right round to the edges, make sure I cover completely. Haven't needed to be too fussy with the lower layers. So I'm kind of doming this in the mould. Don't forget, if you do inadvertently get any overspill, you can trim it off with scissors or anything afterwards. And I do think I am going to get a little bit of overspill here, because me being me, messy as always. These look like they're bits from last time. So let's see what they get like. Now, if you don't manage to dome it while it's in the mould, don't panic, because it's easy enough to dome it afterwards. UV resin is absolutely ideal for that. Alright, I'm going to leave that to sit again now. It won't be fully cured, but I want to start working on these other ones. Still tacky. Let's give it a bit more. Because I want to turn this one out so I can dome it. I'm rushing, well, not rushing it, but you know what I mean, I'm not waiting. So I'm going to trim off that bit of overspill. That's how easy it is, folks. Just get some scissors, snip away. Of course you can file it, you can, I sometimes use my little cuticle pliers. They're good for this sort of thing as well. Then what you want to do is, if you've got a doming mat, great. If you haven't, just grab a little mould. You just want something to sit your little piece in as flat as you can. Just making sure you can see this. As flat as you can. There we are. And then all we're going to do is pour some more resin on the back. The others are domed up on the back anyway. So here we go. Now, I know some people start in the middle and work to the edge. I tend to do it the other way around. Just works for me. So as you can see, I am just pouring a little thin line all round the edge. The surface tension will keep it there as long as you don't overdo it. So I'm just going to go around. I'm not squeezing now, I'm just going around with the nozzle, making sure it's right down onto the edge. Just using the nozzle as a tool really now. Now that is starting to dribble inwards already. So I'm not going to need to do much more other than add a little bit into the middle. Let it settle a bit. Maybe another drop. Now this is the bit that takes some judgment and some practice. Actually doming itself, I don't find that difficult. You just need to make sure you've got right up to the edges. It's judging how much to add, because what you'll see is from the side this is a domed surface now, and if you add too much it'll overflow. The surface tension can only cope so far. So my tip would be to keep practicing and get the hang of it. I don't always get it right, even now, and I've been doing this for some years, and it's quite possible to totally ruin a piece. So practice, practice, practice like anything. And here we come with our UV light again. Now I'm going to move these down closer to me and to my light. And that also brings them right to the bottom of my screen, so I'm going to just move you a little bit, oops, like so. Once these are fully cured, and I'm going to leave them a good few minutes under the light now, I will be, let's move it in a bit more, I'll be showing you how to put them onto the findings. Okay, here's the big reveal. I have got a few little rough edges here which I can trim out a little bit more with my scissors, but I think what I'll do is I'll attack it with a nail file when it's had another couple of days to completely harden. It's this resin cures really quickly. It's the letter resin one, but I do find there's a very slight stickiness to the surface, and I'd rather wait until that's completely gone before I do anything like try to file it. Now, these ones should be adorable. Oh, they are. Can you see that okay? Put my hand under it to see if I can make the focus behave. That is lovely. Again, a couple of little edges to deal with where I overspilt slightly. And this is where you really have to be careful with your fingers. And a bit further in. There we are, that should be deep enough. Right, give them a clean again. So we've got these cleaned up, little hole drilled in the top. And this is a good way to go if you've suddenly realised that what you've created is far too thick for a pinch bail. You'll see what I mean. If you try to put, where's my pinch bails? If you try to stretch one of these to go over, whilst they look big and chunky, it's going to be touch and go as to whether that works. It might have done, just about. Might have done, but I think we're going to go this route, and we need one of these little screws, and that's just going to sit nicely into that hole, like so. So what we do, a little tiny dot of lovely UV resin, wipe off the surplus and push the little screw into the hole. There we are. Let's have some UV light on this. Okay, then our final step, which is entirely optional, is to give them a final top coat with the resin. Now, what I tend to do here is, I sometimes do, I sometimes don't, but I just think it can give them that bit of an extra finish. So I'll pour a little tiny bit into a pot. I'll find myself a small brush, not that small, this will do, look. You're going to have to be careful to clean your brush afterwards because you will wreck your brushes doing this. And this is where I need to make sure I've got a clean surface, otherwise all this mess will stick to it. There we are. And this will just give us our finished shine. I've lost a little bit of shine while I've been handling them because this is still slightly sticky. UV does seem to dry slightly sticky. It's annoying, but it does. They always say it won't, but even the best, when I find this one to be the best, this letter resin one, they will dry a little bit sticky. And of course this will also help to hold your little pin in. Particularly this one doesn't seem to have stayed in terribly well, so a little bit of UV on it, make sure that is straight. And that gives us that finished coat. There we are. Same with this one. Just hold, oops, I'm going to hold it with my pliers so I don't end up putting sticky fingers all over it again. There you go. Did you know you could brush UV resin on? Now you do. And a big one. And don't forget, I am going to file around the edges of this big one shortly, so when that UV is thoroughly cured, I'll give that a bit of a file round. Right, I'm feeling exceptionally pleased with these. So our next step, I've decided, is to actually put them onto sterling silver. Not going to mess about with the cheaper stuff. We're going to go straight for it with the proper silver. Just wanted to take the edge this little bit off the side of this little fella, slightly. There we are. So I think those are gorgeous. So I'm going to treat them to some sterling silver. I've got some sterling silver chains, some sterling silver jump rings, and what else have we got? We could even put these onto sterling silver studs. Bit late though, because I've made the little hook for them, but you could put the stud through so that you've got a short dangle, but no, I don't think we're going to. I think what we'll do is we will go in with the sterling silver ear hooks as planned. Just that I wasn't planning on going for sterling silver. There you go. Sterling silver hasn't, like most things, everything's gone up in price lately, but sterling silver hasn't as much as I expected. So we're, you know, we can afford to do this. Make them posh. These are the tools I'm going to be using. Normally I would use a pair of the round nose pliers and a pair of the flat end ones, which would be a little bit easier to use. Can't for the life of me find them. Yes, I've put them somewhere safe. So I'm going to be using these, which is a multi-tool. It's got a cutter, it's got a squishing flat edge for squishing your things together, clasps and so on, and a round nose at the other end. So it's not quite as easy to handle, but it'll do. Now these, I'm going to keep it really, really simple. I'm just going to put them straight onto the ear hooks. So let's grab a couple of those. Put the rest out of the way. I'm keeping this really zoomed in. I hope I'm not going to lose you off shot, because it's rather easy for me to do that when you're zoomed in this much. But I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. Now, ear hooks. The end of these is a little hook, an eye actually. It goes all the way around rather than just being a hook. Now it is open at one end, that's how they've made it. So similar to our jump rings, what we don't want to do is bend it open. We want to twist it. So I'm holding it firmly in this hand and I am just twisting. Can you see? So that's come open, but it hasn't distorted it. That's the thing, you see. It distorts if you just pull it open. And you've got to try and get it back to round again. Whereas I've just twisted that back and look, it's still that neat little round shape. Has come apart just very slightly more than I would have liked. So I'm going to just give it a gentle squeeze. But that hasn't distorted, and there we go. We have a really cute little finished earring. So let's do the same with the other one. Again, we're going to just twist. Oops, this one goes the other way. The hook's behind. Okay, some of them you'll find the twist is at the front, some you'll find it's at the back. Identify where the end is and away you go. And there we go, just twisted it back. And seriously, that is how easy it is. Now, of course, you may have just bought some pre-made beads or anything to pop on them, which would make it even easier, but if you want to make your own little resins, there they are. And I think those are adorable. Right, let's get on to the big fella. Now this one we're going to want to put onto a necklace, and I've decided that actually, rather than just putting a jump ring here, as we're going a little bit posh, I'm going to put a tiny pinch bail, I think. Let's see how it looks though, because I have got some little tiny sterling silver pinch bails. Now these, as you may have seen in my other videos, you do just pull them open because they're not around. Let me just put my hand behind that so it'll focus. There you go. They're not just a round loop that you could easily distort. You pull them open and you clip them round. So we're going to just get the pliers and gently pull them open. Now we only need to go as far as to get the little loop on the pendant in, and then we can pinch it shut, which we should. Silver's quite soft, we should be able to do that with our fingers. Might get the pliers in there just to finish it off, and I just think that gives that a little bit more professional finish. Let's just try. It's quite fiddly, this one, because it's tiny, so I'm just going to go in. This is where my flat nose pliers would have been good. Do you ever do that where you end up buying another set because you can't find something? I think that's what I'm going to end up doing at this rate. Just going to make sure that's pinched closed. So I've got somewhere, I've got about 10 pairs of these. I bought a load for when I was doing jewellery classes that I was teaching. Anyway, there you go, and I think that looks really quite neat. So all that remains then is the easiest bit of all, and that is to put the silver chain on. These are 18-inch ones. I find that seems to be a popular length. Isn't that a pretty little chain? So dainty. And I think that suits these little flowers. In the summer I shall be drying some forget-me-not flowers. They are an ideal size and so easy to dry, and they don't lose their colour when you do stuff with them. So once we've got forget-me-nots flowering in the garden, I'll show you how to do that as well. And there we go. One little jewellery set. And isn't that cute? There we are. Your wish is my command. Those of you who are asking for jewellery, in particular earrings, we are done. So I'll pose these nicely somewhere, take some photos, and that's the end of this video. Well, thank you so much, all of those of you who have subscribed already. I can't believe I'm already up to 600 subscribers as we speak, because I've only been going for a few weeks, and let's face it, this is a fairly niche thing. It's not like Squid Game or something like that that's going to blow up the internet overnight, and there's a lot of competition. There's some wonderful resin artists out there, and I certainly don't feel like I'm competing with them at all. I'm just offering a different perspective. So there you go, that's today's project. Thanks again, and if you haven't subscribed already and you want to see more of this sort of thing, please do so. You'll see that the little bell and the subscribe button are below, and also the subscribe button will pop up on the screen shortly. There will be other videos in this series. I will be doing next, I believe, putting different things inside different mould ones. I've got some little bits of fruit and some little steampunk style cogs and gears. Thought we might try those for our next video, and maybe use some different materials as well. So there we go. See you all again soon.